Today, I'm going to talk about 5 ways to get out of survival mode. Right now, so many of us are stuck in survival mode. With everything going on in the world, from wars to natural disasters to all the people struggling financially, there are understandably a ton of feelings of fear and uncertainty. And of course, it's also important to remember and to understand that many of us, like myself, were actually raised in survival mode, in houses that were full of chaos or maybe full of disconnection, where ultimately we had to end up being a lone wolf, depending on ourselves. When we didn't have the emotional support that we needed to feel safe, any stress that we may be experiencing now will likely feel compounded or simply more intense. We'll feel on some level that we can't handle it. Because when we are raised in survival mode, it really does become our new normal. And we can't see that life can actually be lived another way. So my goal today is to give you some tools to help you get yourself out of survival mode. But first, let's explore some signs that you might be in survival mode. One sign of survival mode is that you feel stuck or hopeless. Overall, you feel completely exhausted and depleted. You might have no energy, or you might watch yourself scrolling away at your phone all day long, taking no action at all. Another sign of survival mode is you might notice that you chronically focus on all of the things that you can't control. You're overthinking everything, you're going to worst case scenarios, or you're replaying past interactions over and over and over again, always focused on what you can't control. Another sign of survival mode is you might notice that you actually have a fear of asking for help or support. Some of you might not even know that you need support at all. You might have this feeling like in childhood, similarly, like you have to do everything yourself. And this is because in childhood, that was really the case. Another sign that you might be in survival mode is you might notice or experience high anxiety, where you're always feeling worried, on edge, irritable, or you just have a general feeling of doom, even when nothing bad is happening at all. Another sign that you might be in survival mode is you feel kind of like you're watching yourself from above. You're so disconnected or detached from life that you're just getting by. You're going to work, you're cooking meals, but you're just going through the motions as if you're watching yourself do those things from above. You're not actually living, you're just existing or surviving. And the final sign that you might be in survival mode is when small things begin to feel like major obstacles. Basically, you're so depleted that everything, understandably, begins to feel overwhelming. Maybe you see dishes in the sink, but you're just too overwhelmed that you feel like you just can't do them. Or you might get a text message and writing back just feels like the hugest task, even if you want to. Now, if this is you, like it was me for decades, there really is hope. There are even things that you can start doing right now to help get yourself out of survival mode. So let's dive into the steps. The first step is you want to create what I'm calling a life inventory. Really, this is just a step to help you understand what is causing you to be in survival mode. The reality of life is that sometimes some things do happen that we can't control, like the death of a parent or another loved one, maybe a dysfunctional work environment, or maybe a health crisis. And of course, all of those things will overwhelm us and can easily put us in survival mode. But there are also many things that we can control. We might be overextending ourselves, and we might need to set more boundaries. Or we could have some relationships that just really aren't supportive. Or maybe we're not taking care of ourselves. We're eating badly, we're not getting the sleep we need, we're not moving at all. So you can take a minute now and begin to write about, or take some more time to reflect upon what is going on in your life overall that is leading to those overwhelming feelings, that is leading you to feel under-supported and that is ultimately leading you to go into survival mode. We can get really used to this version of life. It begins to feel normal, this survival mode. So taking the time to do this life inventory really helps us see what is and what isn't healthy for us, and also helps us see what we can control, which is how we actually can start to change. The second step is you want to begin to learn your triggers. We often go into survival mode when we're feeling scared, when we're feeling overwhelmed, and a lot of us end up feeling powerless. So I want you to take some time now to think back to when you were young. Many of us experienced things like our parents arguing. Maybe we were shamed for things that we said or we did. Maybe some of us were emotionally neglected, left alone completely to deal with all of the emotions on our own. In childhood, because we were dependent on those around us, we ended up feeling helpless when we didn't have the support that we needed, and we ended up going into survival mode when we weren't able to express exactly how we felt so that we could end up then being supported or being comforted. So take the time that you need now to think about and also to witness the moments in real time in your adult life where you begin to react from this survival-driven place, where you feel emotionally overwhelmed or completely disconnected and shut down. Taking the time to witness these moments will allow us now as adults to begin to develop agency by making new choices, shifting how we react so we can begin to intentionally decide how we respond. The third step of coming out of survival mode is what I'm calling movement release. Really simply, our energy in our body begins to activate, it mobilizes, it increases to help our body focus on our physiological survival. So the longer time we spend in that survival mode, the more likely we are to end up feeling sluggish or heavy or even completely depleted of energy as our body ends up going into an immobilized state where we now no longer have access to the energy that we need as our body's way of conserving energy for our survival. So as a result, our body ends up storing emotional energy in our cells and our tissues throughout our body. So what we'll want to begin to practice now is movements, often quick movements, small ways that we can begin to quite literally move the energy. Doing this will help us get out of those stuck, repeated thought cycles and get more into our bodies, allowing our bodies to release this pent up, stuck energy. Great examples are quick sprints or quick runs, maybe dancing, maybe even sitting where you are and just shaking your arms and your legs. Another helpful practice, especially when you're angry, is actually just to take both of your hands and find a wall that you can push against and place both of your hands against the wall and push as hard as you can, allowing your body to release all of the emotional energy that comes behind anger. Some of you might even want to yell, scream, let yourself cry if you have the urge or the impulse. These releases are actually primal urges, primal actions that a lot of us end up suppressing or not letting ourselves do, even though they actually help our body get back into a calm, grounded, less angry state. So, the next time that you feel the trigger coming on, instead of sitting with those racing, stuck thoughts or being unable to move entirely through those intense feelings, begin to move your body and help your body let those emotions out. The fourth step of getting yourself out of survival mode is to find a support system, whether it's one person or a group of people. Find somewhere, someplace where you can share, talk, and get the support that you need. It might be an online or a virtual support group. One of the biggest reasons that I opened Self-Healer Circle, my virtual membership community. For any of you who want any more information on that, check the link in the description. For others, it might be in the form of close friends or other loved ones, or maybe even a therapist or a coach. Sometimes we just need to be heard, to vent, to have someone who just holds space for us to share whatever it is that we're feeling. And knowing that we have trustworthy connections with the people around us can be such a healing experience. The fifth and final step of getting out of survival mode is to connect to you. Because being in survival mode really disconnects us from ourselves. We can't think about a future. We can't plan for a future. We can't be creative because all we can focus on is surviving each and every day. So it can be really helpful to start to think about, write down, maybe get yourself a journal and begin to explore what it is that you actually envision for yourself and your future. Getting curious if you don't yet know those answers right away. Maybe you want to start seeing a therapist. Maybe you want to find new friends. Maybe you want to build new habits. Maybe you want to get to that project that you've been putting off and you just want to begin to take small steps in your life in some area. Being active and following through on what you actually want can actually help us find our purpose, breaking us out of that stuck, unmotivated feeling. So, as always, I want to hear from you. Are you in survival mode? And if you were in survival mode and you no longer are, what was the most helpful thing to get yourself out of it? Leave it in the comments below.